times, but we're almost there. How's things down in the EC?
After the 2 days of raging wind and bad weather, we had a beautiful day today.
Awesome.
Calm itself, lovely sun, but they say rain again from Saturday.
Well, rain is good because you guys need it.
No, it is. But I'm going to Nisa tomorrow to see my mom, so that'll be nice.
Oh, divine. We'll enjoy.
Thank you.
And perfect timing because we're now live on YouTube. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
All right. I was going to share my screen.
You're good to go.
Okay. Hi, good evening, First Additional Language. It's the 3rd of September and we're in spring. I'm hoping you're all having wonderful spring weather. If you're in the Eastern Cape, you're not, it hasn't arrived yet. We're going to reboot for spring. But anyway, stay warm and enjoy the blossoms, I think, that are coming out, the green grass. And yeah, we are in week 5 already, 3rd of September, 5:30. Right, we've started Unit 2 tonight, which is exploring writing practices. We've been through all the grammar teaching, and I've just finished marking assignment 2 for First Additional Language, assignment 1, sorry. And we're starting the unit now for writing, which is what assignment 2 will be on. So let's see what today has got to offer for this section of your English journey. Okay, as you do always, just look at a spreadsheet quickly with tasks, the online tracking tasks. And as you know, I always get happy when I see things happening there. However, it seems like with the forum in week 3, there are 7 FETs and only 4 seem to do it. For the week 4 online tracking, there's only 2, but you've got until Friday night, the 4th of September, to complete that. For SPs, there seem to be 17 of you active. Only 12 did the forums, and only 11 of you so far have done the online tracking. So if you've got any issues or problems, just get back to me about that. So I'm not too sure what's happening. I have marked the assignment 1s, as you can see. I think most of you have submitted that are active. I think maybe 1 or 2 haven't, but I'm sure you know you haven't, and I'm sure you're making plans about that. Okay, right. So here we go on to Unit 2, teaching writing. And as you can see, I love writing. It's my favorite aspect of teaching English is the writing class. And we're looking at tonight, just looking at exploring different writing practices. I'm especially going to focus on writing for learning, which is quite an important chapter in Colleen, as well as in Ferreira, is that writing enables us to learn and enables our students to learn, not only in English, but in all their content subjects. So it's a practice that's going to set them up for all their academic studies and for all their skills as well. And there's the rest that will follow. All right, so I'm going to be concentrating from Ferreira in chapter 11, and then Colleen, chapter 14. A lot of it comes from Colleen, and I have referenced it as well. But before we continue, I'm going to quickly look at assignment 2, because I've had a few queries coming through, although it's only due in a month's time. For this assignment, you're going to prepare a workshop. It's going to be a presentation that you're going to give to your SP or FET teachers about teaching writing as a process rather than as a product. And you're going to do this in terms of a Prezi slide presentation or a PowerPoint slide presentation or a Zoom presentation, however you want to present it. There are a number of things you're going to have to do for the presentation. I want a CAPS background on it. What does it say about writing as a process? You can look at the different writing stages. Next week in my canned recording, I'm actually going to look at the different writing stages that make up the process stage of writing. There it is. It's all from the pre-writing to the publication. Then you need to look at the differences between an essay type piece of writing and a transactional piece of writing, like an email. So you have to differentiate between those 2 types of writing. Then you're going to take a discursive essay and then a transactional essay, and you can give examples of how you can implement a process approach with either of these 2 examples. Then you're going to look at the benefits of teaching writing as a process. How can you benefit as a learner and as a teacher? You as well, yes. As well as the challenges that you might experience in implementing a process approach, okay? Then you're going to prepare 3 possible questions for your teaching audience to make sure they've been listening to you. So how are you going to present this? You're going to record your PowerPoint presentation, then you're going to convert it to an MP4 recording if you want to, upload it on ECI, or you can use the Zoom presentation, which will also convert it to an MP4 video, or you can use YouTube. But you're going to have to submit the presentation live with me hearing your voice. You speak in it. All right, that might be scary for some of you. I would love to see your face. However, if you've got issues about showing your face, I really want to see your voice, okay? Because if you were doing a presentation, I would actually see your face. What I've done now, there's your Zoom. What I've done now, oh yes, and the transcript for your questions and answers, you're going to have to upload it. There are 2 uploadings, one for the video and one for the transcript. I have now uploaded on ECI a whole PowerPoint on how you can possibly present your slides. I see from assignment 1 that the formatting of an assessment or an activity is really problematic still for many of you without you providing headings, instructions, details, looking at your formatting, deleting white space. So these are quite important to look like, so documents look professional. And so I really want you to pay attention. You're going to present a workshop. So your slides must be powerful and they must be professional. So I really need to see them properly formatted and structured. So this is why I've uploaded the whole tips on how to do presentations on ECI for you with assignment 2 on ECI. Right, so obviously the topic, the name, the date will all be on your first slide, then some kind of introduction and the outline of your presentation. Then slide 1 possibly of the content would be your CAPS background. Maybe slides 2 to 3 will be the process writing stages with examples. Then slides 4 to 5, the essay and the transactional writing differences. 6 to 7 might be the discursive and the transactional writing examples. 8 and 9, the benefits and the challenges. 9, a conclusion. 10, 3 questions. I don't want to be prescriptive, but I will need to see these sections. Obviously, if you're going to decide to leave some out, then that is going to penalize your mark. But not only will I be looking at content, but I'll be looking at how professionally you put your PowerPoint together. Right, so let's get on to tonight's lesson, your learning event. Writing to learn. Yes, writing helps us to learn and it's a very key part of the classroom. This is why I always say end your class with something that is going to involve the students writing. They've got to get used to writing. It doesn't just fall out of the sky. You've got to install this love within them. So with the result, why I'm highlighting this in red is that writing is often neglected at school level. Teachers often just don't get to it. They don't mark the students' work and they don't encourage their students to write. Here's a whole publication about it. It's teaching the neglected are rethinking writing instruction. It's the neglected part of teaching. Students are listening, speaking, reading often, but not writing as much. However, the learner must be guided in their writing attempts so it becomes deliberate in enabling them to understand things, remember things, explore things, extend what they are learning. So it's not just going to happen. You're going to, as a teacher, going to have to guide them. And hopefully tonight we'll be able to explore some of the ways we can guide them. So it's going to become a vehicle, writing has become a vehicle to improve their learning process and make the learner more mindful about what they are doing rather than mindless, just doing anything. So they're going to really think about what they are writing. Here's 2 little episodes here or illustrations of mindlessness. You can see this person is walking around, not really seeing what is going on. The trees are gray, he's not really seeing what's happening, he's thinking about something else. Whereas a mindful person is very knowledgeable about what's going on. Sees the sun, the green trees, he can see that he's walking in a place with green trees or she's walking in a place with green trees. So he's really taking note, conscious of what is happening. Right. Here's a little cartoon from thesaurus.plus, and he says, what is the opposite of mindless? And the very smart pigeon answers, it's someone who's intelligent, mindful, thoughtful, reasonable, wise, attentive, aware, all those things that if you are a mindful person. Right, so learners need to be aware of what they are writing, Is it an email? Is it a report? Is it a dialogue? They need to know why they're actually writing this. So it must be purposeful. They must know, I'm writing this to apply for a position for my next, to become a prefect at the school or a learner, or whatever it is going to be. And how will this help me to learn if I do this properly? Right, so then you put their thinking caps on and think about what they are doing. So teachers, you are going to actively and deliberately engage them on focusing on these different aspects of the writing process. They're going to become conscious that they're using it as a learning tool, and this will help them to become metacognitive. Now, what does that mean? It means I'm going to think about what I'm thinking. Does that make sense? So I'm going to say, why am I thinking like this? Why am I thinking that this is going to be hard? Okay, I'm thinking like this because I've always got bad marks for it, because I never know how to spell. So you start thinking about why you're thinking. The gears are going, your brain is moving. It's not just cognition, which is what I think and I know, but it's rather about how do I think? Why do I think like that? Right. It's a whole cycle, starting from assessing the task to seeing what I can do and what I can't do. How am I going to plan my essay? What strategies am I going to use? How I'm going to reflect on what I've done, and the cycle will go round and round as you think about your task. So you're not just going to sit down and write something. You're going to think about the paragraph, your structures, your word orders, how much sense it makes. Does this paragraph follow that paragraph logically? A lot of thinking that needs to go into it. Right. So using writing as a learning strategy means that sometimes you've got to do different things. So it might be recording information. So if I'm going to write an essay that needs me to research the topic, I might have to record some of the information to make me remember what are those factors that influence pollution. All right, my granddaughter has to do an assignment now on the dangers of pollution of the sea. So all the things that cause pollution of the sea. Then I'm going to use these ideas after I've recorded them to construct the most important ideas of what I need to write about, what I need to learn. And this will help me to analyze and organize and deeply understand what I'm writing about. So my writing is not going to be superficial. It's going to have meaning, and it's going to make sense, and it's going to be logical as well. So writing is a complex activity. Writing is not easy. It doesn't just happen like that, okay? Sometimes you might be able to write something quite quickly, but other times you might just agonize to write the first sentence or the first paragraph. There are different kinds of writing types, and these all need different kinds of organizations. Can you see why it's a metacognitive type of activity? If you're writing a story, you're going to need some kind of sequencing or chronological order. You can't start at the end, although they sometimes do that, and then they start at the beginning. I'm reading a book that's a bit like that at the moment. If it's a description, you've got to observe. What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? All those observation skills you're going to put to the fore. If you're going to argue a point to persuade someone maybe about something, you've got to think about the logical thinking skills you're going to need to make it logical. So I'm going to go from this point to that point to that point. I'm going to do all my most important point first or my least important point first. If I'm going to evaluate or analyze or assess something, I'm going to pass my own judgment and opinion on it. These are different kinds of skills. And if I'm going to try and solve something, I must have problem-solving type skills. So these are all different organizations, and there's a way that you can structure it according to all of these sections. So there's lots of learning writing types that you're going to have to do: descriptive, expository, cause and effect. These are all in the CAPS document. Compare and contrast, we're going to look at that a bit tonight as well. How I'm going to persuade someone, convince them of my point of view, narrative, tell a story, and be creative, imaginative tales and folklores and things like that. Right, so the different writing forms to promote different learning types. I'm just quickly going to overview this. It's going to be there for you to look at in more detail. So if I want to understand concepts or theoretical principles, sometimes it might be good for me to paraphrase that, write it over in my own words, or draw a diagram or a picture to illustrate it. So if I want to illustrate the metacognition process, it might be better for me to draw a flow chart for that. If I wanted to predict something was going to happen, it might be a good idea for me to do sentence completions or story completions, or design some questions to research, to self-assess, those kind of things. If I wanted to make a comparison or a contrast, I might use different tables to say, if I'm comparing, these are the same. If I'm contrasting, these are different. I could use diagrams, or I could use a bar graph to show how different times people use cell phones, how they differ during the day. And there you can see there's a whole thing from principles to describe, to inform, predict, compare, and persuade. These are different kinds of writing, all requiring different kinds of organizational skills, which they have to do this consciously, thinking about the process as they write. Right, so we're still with Colleen. This is page 356 to 357. He says, more writing, more learning. Isn't that fun? So the more you write, the more you're going to learn. So we've got to encourage our learners to think about their prior knowledge of different things and use this to synthesize and make meaning with the new information. So use my old information, what I know, look at the new stuff that's coming in, put it together, and then create new knowledge. So I've got my before process. Have I done something like this before? The during process, trial and error. Is this going to work? Is it going to change? And then the after, why did it work well? Can I do something differently? So to think about this the whole time. And they say this is the DNA of metacognition. Encourage your learners to do deep rather than surface learning. So to really think about the processes that they're going to do rather than just flip out something in 5 simple sentences. So what they're going to do is relate the new concepts to existing knowledge. How does this relate to what I knew before? What themes are present today that I learned yesterday? What is this new information going to lead us to? Why is this new information important? Let's look at this dog. It looks like it's tied to a gravestone in the picture. I'm not too sure why. So you might just look at this image and you can ask different questions about it. What is in the picture? What is happening? What happened before this? So you've got to go back and think about, how did this happen? What's going to happen next? See, stories developing. How will the problem be resolved? How is this going to be solved? So you can just take something that's, give them 5 or 4 little questions, and then they can think about the situation. So this question is said there, can writing be taught? Writing is a deliberate teaching strategy. Can it be taught? Can you just say, I can't write, I can never write, but can I teach it? Let's see. So we've got to encourage our learners in their understanding to use their own words rather than someone else's. And this becomes a problem with cut and paste, okay, when they start plagiarizing and taking from the internet. So you will rather understand if you change something into your own words. It'll also make me aware, and my learners aware, of what I know and what I don't know. So if I read something, I think, oh, I don't really know what's going on. Yeah, I think I need to go back a bit. Oh no, I do know that, I can go on. It also encourages my learners to question their understanding. What do I really understand about this? What do I need to understand? How can my expression improve? And the benefit is that you as a teacher can take this in and you can see where they are in their reading and their writing and their understanding, and you can guide them to make more decisions about what they are doing and help their understanding. So I've got to be deliberate in the classroom in what I teach my students, how they're going to write it, and how they're going to achieve their goals in the end. So I'm going to look at 3 different, it's actually going to be 4, I think. I changed it to 4 special uses of writing as a learning strategy. And the first thing I'm going to look at is note-taking. Yes, you must say that you have to record information sometimes to write about it. So note-taking is important. Hardly see any students taking notes anymore, but I think sometimes if you are researching something or writing something or learning something, you often would be required to take notes. So there'd be your note-taking. Or I can write for consolidation. I can take all those little bits and pieces of my knowledge and write it in a whole so it becomes meaningful to me. Or I can write for revision, realizing that revision is part of the learning process as well. So these are all reasons to say why you have to rewrite something. I love what it says here. If you fall in love with your vision you want of your work and not your words, then rewriting will become easier. You've got to love rewriting. Okay, I'll go over overthink sometimes 3 times, sometimes need to go over them more often. Otherwise, it looks like that. I'm sure all of you hate it when your work comes like that. I say as a teacher, please don't use a red pen. I think it abuses this poor student's work. I think pencil and colored pens like pinks and purples are so much softer and kinder. Don't abuse what they have written with terrible markings on it. Be neat, respectful of what they've written, although you might want to do this. Okay, I'll speak to you about that next week. And then journal writing as well, because that persuades us to go into deeper analytical thought reflection of our work. And yes, general reflection. Last week in school, no one was bullying, and it makes me included. The boy in grade 8, he is autistic. When I see something in the computer, he told me to go away and then swear. That makes me excluded. So thinking about being bullied and excluded. All right. So note taking, learners are expected to take notes, to record information, to remind them of things, to facilitate learning. Rather than just recording, when you get them to mindlessly copy stuff off the board, that is not really note taking. And I often see in your learning plan to say, copy from the board. Okay, they copied these sentences. They copied from what I told them. That is mindless, not mindful, and it's not going to facilitate learning. All right, you've got to get them to record their own notes. And maybe this is a strategy I'll show you tonight. So they can again become thinking learners. So engage your learners, help them to see relationships between different ideas, how they can relate new information to what they have learned, how they can apply this meaning in new understandings, and guide them to structure their notes. They don't automatically know. So I'm just looking at these mind maps you could show them to use for making connections with and seeing relationships. This is some things my students have done. You can ask them to go to Google, ask them to look at different topics that they're interested in, and ask them to go and find a mind map that'll illustrate that aspect. This person looked at travel. Then they had to write a little description of why they chose it, to try and see if they could see the connections, the relationships that were happening in that. So this is an active process. It's making them see and develop, as well as making them mindful of looking at mind maps. It's all about travel, from costs to destinations to where you can stay and all of that. There's another one. It was about a business plan. This student wanted to look at our business plans and all the things related to the business plan, and he should have written a little description of why he chose it. But he says it's to help me organize my business. This one looked at time, which is quite an interesting mind map. And then I've chosen this mind map because it's my first purity, but I think they mean priority. If someone wants to be successful, you've got to manage your time. And this is quite a nice, lovely mind map illustrating all these aspects of time management. This one was about goals, how I can prioritize things in my life. This is one I took about health. I chose this mind map because it has very colors and pictures. It's attractive, and it's all about exercise, stress, sleep, diet, and health. But it's to get them to think about mind maps, how you can draw a mind map, and what mind maps actually mean in terms of connections. Okay, just an example. I'm going to look at a note-taking strategy, the Cornell strategy, and it's dividing your page up into 4 sections. You've got the margin on the left, the topic at the top, you've got a big fat section down the middle, section 3, and you've got a section at the bottom, which is section 4. So it looks basically like that. You'd have your topic at the top. Then down the left side, you'd have your questions, your prompts, your diagrams. And when will you do this? You'll do this after class or during a review. Then your actual notes. These notes will not really be full sentences. That's how I've got there. They'll be short, concise sentences, shorthand symbols, abbreviations, lists. There's not full, long sentences. You are making notes. How you record your lecture. You'll be doing this during class. This is the biggest section in the middle. And then you've got the summary at the end. You'll do this after class or during review. The top main ideas for quick reference. So if you're going to study something, there it all is. Here's another example of someone that did this from an English class. This is again our rule-based, which is a not implicit teaching, but they were taking notes about when do you use the comma. So they've got English commas as the topic, and then you've got all the rules going down. The one is when you separate it in a series of 3 or more words. Then it's about how commas can separate two adjectives and how they can be used before names. So those are all the comma rules. This is questions the person's asking. When should you use a comma between adjectives? The question that he's reminding himself to ask. And again, the summary, the person has taken each of these 3 rules and given a little summary of how it is used. Okay, and this would be their reference when they go and reflect on it later. So a way you can take notes. Right, so we get on to number 2, writing for consolidation and revision. If students are unaccustomed to writing as a deliberate learning strategy, you're going to have to help them. Maybe just by completing a sentence, first of all. So Macbeth's reason for something, ambition, maybe, was, whatever it was. So you're going to give them incomplete sentences. You're going to help them, ask them to complete those sentences just to practice that. Then they can start writing paragraphs on specific issues to develop their organizing skills, logical lines of reasoning, arguments with examples, revising ideas, and that's when paragraph writing becomes important. And I really like the hamburger paragraph, because you've got the 2 buttons on your hamburger, and you've got a topic sentence which relates to the topic, and you've got to have your closing sentence which also relates to the hamburger, and you've got your juicy detail 1, 2, and 3. I always say to my students, your topic sentence is the bun at top, the closing sentence is the bun at bottom, but you can't put ice cream and sweets and milkshake as your details, because they just don't go with a hamburger. They would go with something else. So keep your topic the same. Don't put different topics in your hamburger. Here's quite a nice example. I had a horrible sick day. Okay, the topic sentence. And now all the reasons why it was horrible. I couldn't eat my favorite foods. My mom told me to stay in bed all day. At school, I was missing the party. Again, I never want to be sick again, the closing sentence. So it's a nice, coherent, follows through with the ideas type of example. So you get them to practice this kind of organizing. What we're doing now is we're equipping them to write a cohesive paragraph. So you give them a topic sentence, and there's my topic sentence. In class today, I learned a lot about how to study effectively. Okay, now you can extend this topic sentence in 4 ways. You can give an example, right? So there we go. For example, I learned that taking notes was good to learn. All right. Then you give a fact. We also learn 85% by listening in class. So the 85% is the fact. There it is. You can then give a physical description. Okay. I found that the best place to study is, okay, my bedroom or in front of the TV. Okay. And then a personal experience, I found that my most successful study technique is practicing. So in this way, the student knows, he's mindful, he can consciously and deliberately complete a topic sentence because he knows or she knows they must give an example, a fact, a physical description, and a personal experience. And then they've got a lovely little paragraph about that topic. There we go. Here we go. Say, here it is. Stadio is a university which offers contact and distance learning courses. That's my topic sentence. What is the fact? For example, PGCE and CE are offered as distance learning courses. There's my example. There are 700 students taking DL courses. Here's my fact. Stadio campuses are situated in Montana, which are in Pretoria. Physical description. In my first semester at Stadio, I loved studying PGCE. Okay, so here you've got your fact, you've got your example, you've got physical description, and this makes a lovely coherent paragraph. Also, you could do tables. I said I was going to speak about tables to also construct your little paragraphs. What you could do is a little table, and this could be for the 2 courses that you are taking currently, course 1 and course 2. Maybe it's education and another course. Then you're going to identify 4 ways your courses are similar. So course 1 and course 2, how are they similar in terms of delivery mode, in terms of testing, in terms of lecturers, in terms of location? So you look at all those things. Then you're going to write a paragraph because you've done your little table. So now you can take all that information using comparing paragraphs and we'll use these transitional devices. And now we're equipping them with the words to make those comparisons. I can use the word like, and, as well as, like, and similar. These are the words I'd like to see in it. You can do the same for contrast, which are differences. You do a table, course 1, course 2, how are they different? How is English different to maths? How is education different to psychology? So you do different kinds of things. There you go, e-learning. Identify 4 ways your courses are different. Write a paragraph and use these transitional devices, things like however, although, yet, on the other hand, and you'd expect the students to use those words in the sentences. So then they'll go and practice those paragraphs. The most important thing is practicing. There you've got your e-learning and your contact learning, and your paragraph using compare, which is the same. Stadio is a university which offers both contact and distance learning courses. Firstly, contact learning is the same as distance learning because, in addition, both courses, similarly, students who take these courses are alike as. So you're using all those transitional devices to show that you are comparing. The same, there we go, the same with contrasting. There's the students, your different types of students where they are studying different things. And then you'd go on to write your paragraph. Stadio is a university which offers different courses. And then you've got education contrast with engineering. So you've got the contrast, on the other hand, differs, unlike, and dissimilar. So they thread all these transitional words into the paragraph to show that they are constructing a contrasting paragraph. Okay. Right, comparison contrast tables again. You could do this again with city life and country life. How are city life and country life the same? How are they different? Then you could write a whole essay on city life and country life. Using your compare and contrast words, you could give them this list of transitional devices. You give them a title, provide an exciting title to highlight similarities and differences. Have an introduction, topic sentences, compare paragraphs, 5 of them, contrast paragraphs, 5 differences, and then a conclusion. So they could structure a whole essay now from writing the paragraphs. City or country life, okay? I don't know which one you choose. All right. This is just a quick, again, mindful introduction example. What you need to have in examples, you need to repeat the title and include the words similarities and differences. You've got to define any of the terms that are used. You've got to give a rationale for why you're doing this, and then give the outline of your essay structure. This is a nice little package for writing an introduction. And this would be your example. And you'll see that there I'm repeating the title. There is my definition of what city life is. There's my definition of what country life is. There is my essay structure. The essay will first look at compare and then contrast city life. Then I have to write my conclusion. What would I choose? Country life over city life? In the conclusion, again, here's a little package of how you can structure a conclusion. In conclusion, this essay has discussed the main difference and then the main similarity in your essay, and then your personal preference and reason. So example, in conclusion, there are many differences and similarities. The main similarity is, the main difference is, and then finally, where I would like to be. For me, however, I will always choose to stay in the city because, and here's my question to you, what is your choice? Okay, where would you choose to stay? So what I've just taken you through these examples is to show you can equip your students to become mindful on how they can connect ideas and how they can structure introductions, conclusions, body paragraphs, to your topic sentence, your details, and your closing sentences. Right, so I'm gonna have to move on. Writing for consolidation was from Colleen. He says they have to write a lot of things to put it together. So there's this little definition of moving from note-taking to reflecting to write consolidated pieces. That's what I've taken you through now, right to the essay, looking at comparison and contrast, right from using tables. So you can have, for this practice, you could have start of a lesson type questions. What did I learn in the last lesson? Giving prior knowledge. What is the practical application of those ideas? What confused me? What do I expect to learn? What do I already know about today's topics? And so you could maybe get them just to reflect at the start of the lesson on one or two of those questions. And during the lesson, They can say, how can I describe the concept in my own words? How can I relate these to my situations outside school? How can I solve these problems? What am I confused about? Where is the lesson going to? And then you'll have your end of lesson questions. What were the ideas of the lesson? What do I need to understand better? And so you're thinking about this all the time. Again, my favorite again is also revising. Tips for revising is number 3. You need to revise your work. Only through revision will you be able to express your ideas better, construct convincing arguments, develop reasoning skills, develop your confidence, learn. So yes, you have to revise your writing. That first draft is not perfect. I think I've only had one student in all the time I've been teaching that said, ma'am, I write one draft and it's perfect. I don't think many people can say that. Right. So how do I as a teacher do this? I make sure that their tasks are relevant. They're writing a letter to apply for a position, so it's something relevant to their life. They are designing a CV. They need to know this is not always going to be easy. They have to work hard at it. They have to learn to write like professionals. Yes, they do. They have to send professional emails one day. They must write for a specific purpose. They must know why they are writing this so that they can see it's a worthwhile exercise that they're doing. They mustn't expect their first draft to be their final product, really, that they've got to get beyond that. They've got to rewrite their first draft. Write drafts, reflect on drafts, and then revise all the time, maybe 5 times. Right. The 4th one is journal writing. Journal writing is so important, helps learners to consolidate their learning, to see gaps, what they don't know, and how they can develop understanding with others as well. How do they do this? You can give them a specific topic. You can say, okay, we can look at emails and we can look at essays. Then they must go and write something in their journals about what is an email and what is an essay. Then you can discuss the main differences. You share what you believe about it, and then they're going to look at the key points to link their ideas and understanding to be explored in the lesson. Right, so if you look about letters and emails, this is 15 years ago. Sigh, letters, ding, you've got mail, and we're all excited about that. But today, oh my goodness, a letter, so exciting. And then you've got 220 unread emails that you just can't get to. All right. So these are different journal writing types. There are questions about this in your online tracking for this week, so these notes will help you. Descriptive, when you write about things that have happened. Introspective, when you write about things that you're going to question, analyze, make connections, understand things. Real world problems, there's so many of them around at the moment, right from COVID to social distancing to GBV to pollution to corruption. And then to write regularly in your journals. This encourages the whole writing trend. What are my learning goals? What things do I understand? What do I find challenging? To reflect on these all the time. Right, issues. ICT writing is amazing. I love it. But there are issues about the cut and paste scenario. Okay, we don't like that. Spelling blindness. Yes, always check for spelling errors. And then when you get a fetish for format, and that's all you worry about, not worry about the content, but what it looks like. So that becomes a problem as well. So I think it's my last slide. I'm a bit worried about time. So how am I going to motivate my learners to write? I can't expect them to write if I never allow them to write. Just remember that. Please start with sentences, little bits, little questions, and then build up from that. I think that's why I like the tables, because that helps them to start writing. Find interesting topics for them. Let them write about things that they know and understand. Also challenging things, not city life and country life maybe. Different kinds of writing, blogs, multimedia, wikis, all different ways they can write. You can model good writing practices, give them examples. Don't just criticize their spelling and their punctuation. Give feedback on their structure and their organization and ideas. Yes. Don't always want them to write long pieces where they count every word. Let them write shorter pieces to practice the skill of writing. Remember, quality is not as how long it is. When they come and say, I wrote 10 pages, I die, because I think sometimes someone who's written 1 page is more meaningful. Encouraging feedback. Yeah, so, oh, that's great. I can see it's coming on. And I think I've also got to work on that all the time, to give encouraging feedback, to revisit your writing, to see how it has developed. Write for an audience other than the teacher, the class, your mother, your father, your boyfriend, husband. And lead by example as a teacher. You write and you do all these things as well. Good job, and they will enjoy that. So what's next? Love is English. Yes. Love is writing. Thank you last night, your diary says. I feel 10 pages longer today. Your writing. It loves you when you write. So practice that writing and keep loving to write. Next week, we'll look at the process approach to writing. And please go back to ECI and go and check what's happening with assignment 2. I have put the text up there. And then finally, just go look at the PowerPoint on that as well. So have a good evening. Enjoy what's left of the 3rd of September. And I'll chat to you next week. If you've got any problems, please get back to me on email. So take care and ciao.
Well done, Marcel. You just squeaked through there.
My word.
Perfect.
Thanks. I'm going to go out and I'll come in again.
I'll see you in the next session.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Goodbye, everybody. It's like a little bit of a race from the one to the other. I get quite stressed out, I won't lie. So I
get stressed as well. See the time ticking by. I think you've got to do the adjustment from the hour to the 45 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, at least, and thank you for being cognizant of time, because not everybody is.
Okay.
So let's, I am going to, I think we are live on YouTube. Yes, there we go. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you take over. Right. Enjoy your lecture.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, home language. I'm just going to share my screen quickly with you. Let's share now. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of that. Okay, right, so here we are, 3rd of September, 6:15, 16 minutes past 6, and we are starting Unit 2, Exploring Writing. We have finished grammar teaching. I have finished marking the first additional assignment 1s. I'll be starting the assignment marking for the FET group first, because you're not as big as my SP group, so I will start with them. It takes me about a day to mark 10, so it is really a slow process. So anyway, I'll get to them in the next week. So we're starting the whole writing genre for the next 4 weeks, and I'm looking quite forward to it. It's my favorite part of the writing, or the skills that we learn. All right, so before we start, I always just look at the spreadsheet. Interestingly, I saw that the forum was was not that well done. I'm not too sure why. There are 20 FETs that are active, and only 8 seem to do the forum discussion, with the SPs only 19 of the 32, which was quite strange. And then for week 4, we've got 13 of the FETs of the 20, which is not too bad, I suppose. And 27 have already done the on-track tasks. I think they are a lot easier to do maybe than the forum and the others. So that's why you get to them. You've got until Friday night at midnight to complete this. So I'm sure next week I will see a big tally change there. With the assignment 1, I can see quite nicely that 20 of the 20 were submitted and 32 of the 32 were submitted. So that gives me, it doesn't give me a grumpy face, it gives me a smiley face. Assignment 2 is now due on the 25th of February, 25th of September, and I'll get to that now. But we tonight can look at specifically writing practice for the home language FET and SP classroom. I'm going to be focusing really on writing to learn, because writing enables us to learn quite actively, not only English and other aspects of English, but other content courses as well. And then we'll get onto the rest of that during the next 4 weeks. This is, yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. I am having a problem with us live on YouTube. So
okay.
I'm just, would you mind just pausing for a minute? I'm going to have to stop the live stream and restart it.
Okay.
No. You just stop talking.
Okay. Okay.
So you don't have to stop sharing your screen or anything, it just wasn't moving.
Okay.
So I'm just reconnecting, and because this is the last session, we can go over for a couple of minutes.
Okay, great.
So it's absolutely no problem.
So you don't want me to you don't want me to start. You don't want me to start again.
You're welcome to start again if you want to. I just don't understand why it's saying live stream offline. I'm having technical difficulties today.
It sometimes just happens, even with professionals and experts.
This thing, it's saying live stream offline, but then when I go into YouTube and check, sorry, I'm so sorry
problem.
about this. No. I'm not quite sure what to do now. It's hold thumbs that it works this time.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are recording to the cloud. So if it doesn't work, what I will do is I will just download the recording. I will snip this part out.
Okay.
And then I will upload it tonight after we finished.
It's no problem. And I can start again if you want me to.
Oh, no, it's absolutely fine. So if you don't mind restarting from assignment 2,
okay,
and then we'll take it from there. Thank you, Marcel. Sorry about that.
I can just start now.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So we're getting on to assignment 2, which is due on the 25th of September. I do have time now to mark. As you can see, I've got 2 weeks to mark assignment 1. But I thought I just want to go over this because I've had a few questions coming through already. This is going to be different to assignment 1 and all the lesson plans you did in semester 1. This is going to be presenting a workshop. This shouldn't be FAL, it should be HL, SB and FET teachers. So you're going to present a workshop to them on why teaching writing should be as a process rather than a product. And you're going to have to design a PowerPoint or Prezi slide presentation, and you're going to have to include the following on your presentation. You're going to have to give a CAPS background to what process writing is. You're going to have to explain the process approach to writing, giving examples for each of those stages that you're going to describe. And there it is, from the pre-writing stage all the way to the publication. You're going to have to differentiate between essay type writing and transactional writing requirements and give examples of each. Then you're going to have to take a discursive essay and some piece of transactional writing, maybe a dialogue, maybe an email. And then you're going to explain how you're going to apply a process approach to writing those types of writing. And finally, you can sort of end your presentation off by saying what the benefits are for teaching writing as a process rather than as a product. And then you're going to outline the challenges for implementing this kind of practice. Then you're going to ask your audience 3 questions. So you're going to have to put your 3 questions on one of your slides. How are you going to present this? You're going to have to record your PowerPoint presentation. And once you've done that, you're going to convert to an MP4 recording. I have uploaded with assignment 2 today a whole presentation tip PowerPoint for you to go through with what I expect, how you can do the recordings, what I expect you to format it like. Because remember, this is going to be a workshop presentation to teachers. So it's got to be professional. It's got to be formatted correctly. It must make sense. It must be logical. Do I have to see you in the presentation? I would like to. I know some of you might have issues about showing yourself, but I would love to hear your voice. If you were going to present this at a workshop, you would have to be seen. If you want to use Zoom, then you can choose to have your camera on or not. If you're doing the same with the PowerPoint presentation with a recording, I think you can delete your video. I know you can't, but you can just do audio as well. But that's up to you. And then there's your Zoom. And then you're going to provide a transcript for the questions. So possibly you won't be able to actually ask your questions at your presentation time, but maybe you can. But I would like to see this as your question and the transcript of the people that gave you the answers, what they said about your questions. So that's a transcript. That's a separate submission. You've got the video, and you're going to have your transcript. All right. This is a possible presentation slide overview that I would expect, about 10 slides. I have put this also in the PowerPoint presentation. Your topic, obviously your name, the date, where you are, an introduction with an outline. Then your first part of your content slides could be the background to CAPS and writing as a process. Then slides 2 and 3 could be looking at the process writing stages with examples. Slides 4 and 5 can look at essay writing and transactional writing to highlight their differences. Slides 6 and 7 could be your discursive and transactional writing with examples on how you're going to implement the process approach to teaching these. Slide 8, the benefits of this kind of process to writing, and then slide 9, the challenges. You'll have a concluding slide, obviously, and then you're going to have a slide with your 3 questions. Right. Tonight we're going to look at writing to learn. This is going to be the focus of writing, because many of our students do not write in the school. It has been researched that writing is often the most neglected skill at school level. This is why I'm always at pains in your writing your lesson plans to say, get them to write something, even something short. It's the practice of writing. Students are so easy that it's easier to sit and say something or listen or read than to actually physically write. It's like becoming fit. You've got to get used to writing, and you've got to give them opportunities to do this in the classroom. Here's a publication, Teaching the Neglected R. Yeah, rethinking writing instruction in secondary classrooms. So the whole idea is that teaching is neglecting writing, and we need to put that into our skill development, because it's going to help them to learn. Will they know how to do this? No, they're not. You're going to have to guide them so that they can write in a deliberate way, so they can learn to understand work, remember work, explore work, and extend their thinking and their learning through writing. Writing is a vehicle for improving learning process. If you write something down, you're often going to remember it. So it is a learning process. But your writing must be mindful, not mindless. So in your lesson plan, the next time you say they must copy the questions from the board, or they must copy the sentence from the board, that is mindless. Okay, they are not learning anything. They are not creating their own notes. They are not thinking about what they are writing. They're just copying it down, and if you ask them what they've written, they will not know what they have written. So let's look at the whole idea of being mindless and mindful. When you're mindless, you're not really thinking about what you're doing. Yeah, we've got someone in a park, he doesn't even see the sun is beautifully shining, the trees are green, he's thinking about something else, or she's thinking about something else, music, cars, dogs. So they are mindless, they're not taking in what's going on around them. Whereas in the other circle, the person's walking the park, sees the trees are green, notices how they are situated in the park, the sun is shining, and in their mind's eye, they can see the park exactly as it is represented. They are now being mindful about their surroundings. Right, yeah, we've got 2 pigeons from what is mindful and mindless. Let's see what they say. So what is the opposite to mindless, says the one pigeon, and the wise pigeon answers, is being intelligent, thoughtful, reasonable, thinking, attentive, heedful, aware. So those are all the things we want our students to be when they are writing, to be thoughtful about what they are writing. So learning to write, learners need to be aware of what they are writing. What am I writing now? I'm writing a dialogue. I'm writing a letter. I'm writing a description. Why am I writing it? Okay, I'm writing the letter to apply for a job. I'm writing this announcement to inform people that I'm having a party. Okay, how is this going to help me to learn? Because I will learn how to compose a letter. I will learn how to design a CV, and this will help me to learn because I will remember how to do it. So I'm going to have to put my thinking cap on. I'm not just going to be mindless anymore. I'm going to think about what I'm actually writing. So it's going to be, students are going to be actively engaged and deliberately writing while they focus on while they focus on important aspects of what they are writing. So everything is focused, it's conscious, It's not subconscious, and it's active when they are busy writing. So they're going to use writing as a tool, thinking about things consciously, to become more metacognitive about what they are going to do. Now, there's lots of big words there. What is metacognitive? It's thinking about thinking. Okay, so I think I can't write. Then I think, well, why do I think that I can't write? Well, I always get bad marks. But is that because I can't write? No, maybe it's because I don't spell properly. What can I do about that? So I'm thinking about the process and how I can improve. So there we are. There the gears of the mind are going. I'm thinking about thinking. All right. Everything's working in my brain. I'm conscious. I'm deliberate. Cognition is what people know and think. Okay. What do I know? I know this. I think about that. But metacognition is how people think about their own thinking. All right. There's a bit of a difference. It's a whole cycle. So I'll get a task. I assess the task by things I must do. What can I do? What can't I do? How can I plan my approach? I go and research something, what strategies I'm going to use. Then I'm going to reflect on it all. And it's going to be this whole cycle. I'm going to be thinking about what I am doing all the time. So I'm going to use writing as a learning strategy. And often I'm going to be having to use writing to record something to help me to memorize what I have actually read or learned. So someone has told me something, I said, if you make a note, I've read something, I write something down because I want to remember memory prompt of what I am recording the information for. And then I'm going to construct and reconstruct important ideas to help me learn from that prompt. And in this way, I'm going to be able to analyze things, organize ideas, and develop deeper understanding. Not just going to happen, it's going to have to be a process by which you enable learners to help them to analyze, organize, and develop deeper thinking. So writing really is a complex activity. Writing is not easy. It doesn't just happen like that. You're not just going to be a good writer. Some people are actually just good writers, but most people can become good writers. We don't all ride a bicycle the first time. We'd have to learn and practice it and get our balance right. And then sometimes we still have accidents. So it is complex. So there are different writing types, and these all require different organizational skills, which learners need to be mindful about. So for instance, if I'm writing a story, I have to know about sequencing and chronological order. I can't just do it, start in the middle and then go to the end, although sometimes stories do work like that. If I'm describing something, I've got to be observant. I've got to know what I saw, what I smelt, what I heard, what I felt. I think I've said most of the skills. If I'm arguing a point, I've got to use logic to explain the steps on how I get to that point, because I need to convince someone of why I am perhaps correct. If I'm evaluating or analyzing something, I use judgment to give my opinion on different things. If I'm trying to find a solution, I will use problem-solving skills, and these all have different organizational skills associated with them. So there are different writing types that are all in the CAPS document, from expository to persuasive to descriptive to narrative type writing. And all of them have got different organizational skills that you need to be writing. So if you are asked to write a comparison essay, you won't write about differences, you'll write about similarities. If you're writing expository, you're not going to describe something, you're going to explain something. If you're going to do a narrative, you're not going to convince someone of your point of view, you're rather going to tell them a story. So all of these are different organizational skills the students will have to be mindful of and cognizant of to write an effective piece of writing. Right, so these writing forms promote different types of writing, and this looks like a big long table. So I'm just going to look at three things here very quickly. So you can see the types of learning. The first one I'm going to look at quickly is understanding concepts or principles. What writing form can I do for that? Well, I can paraphrase it. I can put it in my own words, and then maybe I will understand the concept when I do that. What is metacognition? Okay, put it in my own words. Otherwise, I might use the flow chart to describe it. And in that way, I'm gaining understanding of that concept or that principle. If I want to predict something, what kind of writing can I do? I can do sentence completions. I can do story completions. I can develop research questions. So in that way, I can hypothesize or I can predict. What about if I want to compare and contrast? And I'm going to look at compare and contrasting examples in tonight's presentation. I can use tables for this, and I can use the table to show my comparison or my contrast, or I can use a bar chart to show the different times that people use cell phones or social media. So these are different ways we can learn from describing. I can use advertisements. Informing, I can use announcements. Comparisons, I can use tables. To persuade, I can do a letter to the editor. So these are the forms and the types of learning that go together. Right, so Clean, yes, our friend. I've learned quite heavily on Clean in this chapter. He wrote really a stunning chapter 14 on using writing to learn and being deliberate in your teaching practices. So the more you write, the more you're going to learn. You can tell your students that if they don't want to learn, don't want to write, say to them, they're not going to learn, all right? So this will encourage them to use prior knowledge. You can say to students, what did we learn yesterday? You're forcing them to write. Okay, today we're going to learn this. How do they go together? Try and get them to make that connection and see that relationship. Here's a metacognition approach. Before the class, you can say, have I done something like this before? What did I do before? All right, during the class. Is this really working? Am I really understanding because I knew what I did yesterday? Why can't I understand today? And after the lesson, you can say, well, what worked well? I really understand this now. Why did I? What else can I do differently? So you're thinking about this all the time, but you've got to encourage them as teachers to be deliberate in thinking about the learning. So what did we learn yesterday is not a stupid question. Write down what we learned yesterday. We're going to learn this today. How do you think they go together? Okay. This encourages learners to take deep approaches to learning rather than just superficial off-the-top learning. They learn to relate new concepts to existing knowledge. They learn to identify themes in what they are studying. They learn to critically evaluate new information. So this is all part of deliberate teaching and learning. Let's look at this cute little dog. Okay, it seems to be tied to a gravestone. So you give them a picture like this and you can ask them questions to probe their understanding. What is the problem? And don't let them just shout out the answers. Get them to write down. What do you think the problem is? Okay. Well, what happened before, do you think? Why did this happen? What's going to happen next? How will this problem be resolved? So in terms of giving them questions like this, they have to unpack their thinking and relate one context to the next context. And so they can write about something like this. So you might say, can writing be taught? Can I be a deliberate teaching teacher and encourage my students to write? Well, if you're going to have to do this, if you want to encourage them to understand their work, you're going to have to get them to write in their own words and not expect them to remember your words. So don't get them to copy your words from the board. Let them identify and rewrite in their own words. This will make them know that what they do know or what they do not know. If they say, Miss, I don't know. I said it was this. What don't you understand? What do you know? If they're just copying it down, they're not going to be aware of what they know or do not know. This will encourage them to question their understanding and strive for clarity in their thinking and expression. So if they don't understand and they have to do the notes, they'll have to ask. And this way they can cement and become cognizant of what they know or do not know. And the benefit is that you can take something in at the end of class. What did you learn today? And you have to write something. And then you can see what they actually learned today. And this can give guidance to the next lesson as well. So you have to be deliberate in the classroom. It's got to be conscious. It's got to make them think about what they're doing. And you can't just expect it to happen. You've got to plan for it. Right. We can look at 4, not 3, special uses of writing as a learning strategy. The first one's going to be note-taking skills. Yes, students need to take notes. There you go. Writing for consolidation. That means not just writing small pieces, little bits and pieces, but eventually taking all those little bits and writing one essay. So if you're doing, we look at comparison and contrast paragraphs, how does this turn into a whole report on comparing and contrasting? Yes, Revising is so important. That first draft is never going to be perfect. It's going to be terrible. I was saying to my other group, I've only had one student in my whole life that said to me, ma'am, I don't have to rewrite anything. I've never had to revise. Yeah, most of us have to. Even I have to. So it's important practice to start doing. Writing is actually rewriting. And this whole little episode goes about, even if you are a great writer like Nora LaRoche, you have to fall in love with revision. You have to know that it becomes important, and all writing is rewriting. It's never the first one is going to be correct. Again, we're going to look at feedback next week, and I'm going to speak about feedback and how we do it. Please don't mutilate your student writing with terrible red crosses and underlinings and exclamation marks. You are already hurting them. I don't know how you feel. Try and think of their feelings. I try to be cognizant of my students when I give them my comments. Try not to be harsh, ask questions. Don't use red pens. I always suggest you use pencils or colored pens like purples, light pinks, to make it look pleasant, and don't cross over their writing. Try and make it look neat so they don't feel that you've mutilated what they've written. So they are, yes, revision and feedback is important, but think about how you do it. And we're also going to look at general writing as the last part we look at tonight. Okay, oops, let me go back to that. Here is an example of a journal. Last week in school, no one was bullying, and it makes me included. The boy in grade 8, he is autistic. When I see something in the computer, he told me to go away and then swear. That makes me excluded. All right, so it doesn't matter how it comes out. If it's their journals, they can write about it, but this person's at least writing about something. Okay, so note-taking. Yes, learners are often expected to take notes, although I must say that this practice I don't often see anymore in universities, in the classroom. I'm just wondering when notes actually happen, because students even come to school without pens. They sometimes have to record sufficient information to remind them of something that they need to be learning. So often there is the need to take notes, even sometimes I suppose it's underlining and highlighting as important parts of the notes. But notes should facilitate the learning rather than just the recording. So if you again are getting them to simply copy from the board without thinking, they are not processing the information and they're not learning it. So every time you say to your students, copy from the board, just remember, are they processing that information? Get them to go and write those points on the board to record those sections. Each one has to do it, so they each have to think about one thing. Right, again, put the thinking caps on. So you must engage learners, help them to see relationships between facts and ideas, help them to process new information with prior learning, help them to apply new understanding in meaningful ways. How can I understand this new system or concept that we're learning? But realize as a teacher, you're going to have to guide them to structure notes. And how can you do that? Well, you can maybe say to them, I want you to go and find a mind map of certain topics on Google. And then you can get the whole list of topics. Go and look for a mind map you really like and write about it. And these are some examples from some of my students that I've taught. This person went and looked at travel. They liked the mind map about travel, and they had to write a little paragraph. It was all done on a PowerPoint slide, why they liked it and why it was important to them. This also makes them see the connections. Once we go into the process approach to writing, the use of mind maps becomes important for the planning of an essay. This one did the business plan, the whole way you do a business plan, and he liked this idea of this mind map because it helped him create new ideas, developed his business, organized his business, the product, the strategy, the team, that was important to him. This one did quite an interesting one on time management. There's a lot of detail in this mind map, so if you go and look at it, it's quite nice. On clarity, foster, supervise, being smart in your goal taking, communicating. And the person says, I chose this mind map because time management is my first priority, not purity. If you want to be successful in something, you've got to be able to do this. So quite a nice way to see connections in relationships. This person did on goals. I like the one here at the bottom. Don't take anything too seriously. enjoy everything, relax. So obviously got a very calming way to look at things. If you look at the colors on the mind map, it's also like very soft, delicate, calming type of visuals as well. Okay, so very attractive and appealing to the eye. This person took health, and you can see the apple right in the middle. And I quite like this one because it looks at stress, it looks at exercise, it looks at diet, it looks at sleep, it looks at help, where you can get help for that. And wrote quite a nice little paragraph on the importance of all these aspects in our lives. So quite a nice holistic idea of what health is about. Cornell also comes along with quite a nice practical strategy for taking notes. And you can say to your students, divide your page into 4 sections, right? The top part, and I'll give you dimensions later, with the topic. Down the left-hand margin, you've got a section for questions, number 2. Number 3 is where you do your main points. And number 4 is your summary at the end for key concepts, right? So you put your page into 4. So on the left, you would do your main ideas, questions, diagrams, all the cues. It's your little thin section on the left. And then you would do your notes. Interesting here, how do we do the notes? We don't use full sentences. We rather use concise sentences, shorthand symbols, abbreviations, lists, skipping lots of space between points and so on. And this is usually done during class. Okay, it can't be done after class because you're in class when you're taking your notes. When can cues be done? It can be done after class. Once you've looked at your notes, you do your questions, and you can do that when you're reviewing your work as well. And then finally, your summary, which is the main ideas for quick reference. And when do you do this? Obviously after class or during review of the section. Just a quick English example. This person did the English commas was the topic. And then when looked at all the 3 different rules for comma use, for those of you that like teaching grammar, this is a perfect one for you. All right. Rule 1, separate a series of 3 or more words. Then you've got rule 2, when you've got 2 adjectives, it's got no and between it, you put a comma before people's names, 3 rules. Then their questions were here. When should a comma be used between adjectives? And they did, for the little summary, they did little examples of each sentences using the different rules. Okay, lilacs, magnolias, roses, and daisies, and then they use the rule. So this is one way to take notes and review afterwards. Right, writing for consolidation and revision. We can look at first writing for consolidation, how we put all the wholes together. If students are unaccustomed to doing this, they've never done deliberate learning or writing before, you can start off with asking them to just complete a sentence. All right, summarize what you have learned by completing a sentence, and you give them part of the sentence. Macbeth's reason for killing Duncan, maybe, was ambition. Okay, whatever it might have been. So you would help them structure like that. Then afterwards, you get them to write paragraphs on specific issues to develop their organizing skills, their logical lines of reasoning, supporting arguments with examples, revising the ideas. They start writing paragraphs. We're not writing long pieces now, we're writing small pieces, and we help them to structure this as well. I like the hamburger paragraph, and because you have the top button, which is the topic sentence, the main topic of the paragraph, then you've got the closing sentence, which would be the bottom bun. You don't get a hamburger without the bottom bun or the top bun. You need that. Yes, you're on diet. And then you need juicy detail 1, 2, and 3, which is your tomatoes, your lettuce, your burger patty. So those develop your story. And here's quite a nice example. The topic sentence was, I had a horrible sick day. And you've got your juicy details, 1, 2, and 3. The lettuce is, I couldn't eat my favorite foods. The burger patty, my mom told me to stay in bed all day. The tomato, at school I was missing the party, all the reasons. And then the closing, the bun at the bottom, I never want to be sick again. I say to my students that if you've got a topic sentence, which is a hamburger bun, you don't put the fillings in as milkshake, ice cream, sweets, and chocolate, and then put a bun at the bottom. So that means don't mix your key ideas. If you're writing about hamburgers, all those juicy details must be about the burger patty, the lettuce, the tomatoes, maybe some relish, but you don't put ice cream in there because that'll destroy the whole cohesion of that paragraph. Okay, So there's another example how you can help him to structure a paragraph. These are 4 basic ways to support your topic sentence, and your topic sentence might be, in class today, I learned a lot about how to study effectively. Then you give an example. That's your next sentence. For example, I learned that you need to take notes to study. Okay, there it is. Then you give a fact. We also learn 85% by listening in class, and that using the percentage shows me that I'm giving them a fact. Then I give them a physical description. My best place to study is, and there we are describing where we study. And then finally, a personal experience. I have found that my most successful study technique is practicing. So yeah, we've got a topic sentence. The students go and write mindfully about their topic sentence. They know they must provide an example, a fact, a physical description, and a personal experience, and helps them to develop their little paragraph, knowing how they're going to structure it. All right. And I took Stadio as well, and we wrote about that. Stadio is a university which offers contact and distance learning courses. All right. That is my fact. Okay. For example, now comes my example. PGCE and the certificate courses are offered as DL courses. Here's my example. There are students taking distance learning courses and at Stadio in 2020. That's a fact. Stadio campuses are situated in Montana, which are in Pretoria, Tshwane. Physical description. In my first semester at Stadio, I enjoyed PGCE. So your personal experience. So in this way, you've got a lovely little paragraph, and you've just used those different aspects to develop your paragraph. Okay, do the same with comparison tables. You can develop a paragraph just going through these structures as well. We've been mindful and strategic in how we teach and writing. So I look at 2 of my courses that I'm taking, course 1 and course 2, and I compare them. So I'll draw up my table. There it is, education that I'm taking. And then I identify 4 ways my courses are similar. So I'm taking education and I'm taking maths, maybe. How are they the same? Might have the same teachers, the same timings, the same location, the same assessment strategies. So those are ways they are similar. Then I write a paragraph. I've got my table, I've got all the information there, and I use the transitional devices that show comparison. Words like, I'm going to use words like and as. I take education and psychology. They are both the same because, okay, so you will use all those transitional devices. The same for a contrast table. Contrast 2 courses that I'm taking. And then you've got your course 1 and course 2. I'm doing e-learning, and I'm doing distance learning, and I'm doing contact learning. Then you identify 4 ways they are different. And then I write a paragraph contrasting how they are different. Maybe the one is a CAS, continuous assessment, and the other one is exam type subject. So that's how they differ. And you give them all the transitional devices on how they can do the contrast using however, although, yet on the other hand. And then they go and write their different paragraphs. Here's their practice. They will write the comparing paragraph, looking at online and contact teaching. Stadio is a university which offers both contact and distance learning classes or courses. And then you've got the word both, our transitional device. Firstly, contact learning is the same as distance learning. Again, it's the same. In addition, both courses, similarly, students who take these courses are alike. And so I'm using a lovely comparison paragraph using the transitional devices and how I can use my table as well. If it's contrasting, it's exactly the same. There I've got students listening onto every word. There might be art students. There I've got my engineering students. There I've maybe got my IT students. Okay. Stadio is a university which offers different courses. Okay, firstly, the education contrasts. On the other hand, differs, unlike, dissimilar. All the red there, we can see there's definitely a contrasting paragraph, and students mindfully will know they have to insert these kind of devices into their paragraph. But I can build up from these tables. I can take it to a whole essay now on city life and country life. All right, again, I say how they are similar in terms of work, transport, location, population, shopping, how they are different in terms of size, shopping, activities, work, the environment. And then I can give them an essay, city or country life, and they write an essay using those comparison and contrast tables. They've got a whole list of all the transitional or signal words that they could use. They give it a title, they write an introduction, paragraphs with 5 similarities, contrasts with 5 differences, and they end up with a conclusion. So I've taken it in a piecemeal way. I've taken from understanding the tables, writing paragraphs, and now constructing my essay. I've not thrown them in the deep end. They can do this all mindfully and in a structured way. References to if they've made references. So there you go, city life or country life. Which one do you like? And you will compare and contrast them. So just to look at the introduction structure again, the same as way I can construct a paragraph, introductions have got main elements, which students can be mindful of, and so they can understand why the introduction is good or if it's bad. This is a generic type of structure. It can be slightly different. I've seen even in abstracts in academic papers, it's very much the same. So the first thing an introduction will do is repeat the title. And if it's a similarity and difference type of essay, it should include those words as well. Then it needs to define any terms that are used in the title, because the person might not know what a city is or what a country is. Give a reason for writing about this. What is the purpose? Then give this essay outline. This is just basic how you can structure your introduction. And this is an example. That would be your repeating the title, country and city and country life share many similarities and differences. All right. Then I can define the term city life and country life, what they are. Then I can give my rationale for it, and I'll end with how I'm going to structure my essay. I'm first going to look at compare, and then I'm going to contrast it, so the reader knows how I'm going to structure it. So that would be my introduction, then I'll do my compare paragraphs, and then my contrast paragraphs. I will end with my conclusion. I choose country life over city life any day, the person says. The conclusions have also got a basic structure. So you often start with in conclusion or finally, so this reader knows you're coming to the conclusion of your essay. Then you're going to cite the main difference and similarity between country and city, and then your personal preference and reason. So the example would be, in conclusion, there are many differences and similarities between city and country life. The main similarity is, the main difference is, and then the reason I would choose the city or the country. All right, so that's a basic structured conclusion. And if you can say to the student, I didn't see your main difference or your main similarity, they will be mindful that they've left that section out. So they know the structure, they know how to write it. So I'm saying to you, what would your choice be? Okay. Still writing for consolidation. Clean on page 360 says they need to take all the pieces they've written and put it together. And this is why I've taken you right from the contrast tables to writing a paragraph to writing a whole essay. So you need to bring it all together. You can also consolidate by having started with the lesson questions, during the lesson questions, and after lesson questions. And the start lesson questions, you can say to them, and you can tie this up with general writing as well. What is the main thing I learned yesterday? What was practical about what we studied? What confused me? What did I do about it? What do I expect to learn this lesson? What do I already know about today's lesson? Then you're during the lesson questions. How can I describe that concept in my own words? How can I describe metacognition in my own words? Okay. How can I relate these ideas to my personal experiences outside school? How can I solve the problems? What am I confused about? Where's this lesson going? And then end of lesson questions. What were the main ideas? What do I need to understand? All right, so you're thinking all the time about what you're doing. So part of consolidation would include this kind of reflection. Getting on to revision. Revision is very, very important. It's also a learning process, and we learn through writing. But you have to revise, because only through revision will learners be able to express their ideas clearly. Will they be able to construct convincing arguments which are logical and make sense? That they can develop their reasoning skills, so that they can get confidence in writing. They can learn from their writing. So students have to revise. They've got to add things, they've got to remove things, they've got to move things, they've got to substitute things. This is actually why I like MS Word, because I can also always do that with a click of a drag a word here, take it there, take it out, delete it. So we can revise very easily using different software. But you as a teacher must also make sure that your tasks are relevant and meaningful for your students. They must know why they are writing about it. They need to know they must work hard. It's going to take sustained effort to write something that's coherent. They've got to be engaged as professionals in their writing as well. So I can't go and hack out an email, because one day I'm going to go into the workplace and I've got to write a professional email. I've got to write a professional letter of application. My CV must be designed professionally. So they've got to know what they're doing is meaningful, that it is specifically purpose what I'm doing, and it is worthwhile, because one day I'm going to have to compare and contrast different aspects when I write reports. I mustn't expect my first draft to be the final product. I've done this in red with big letters and an exclamation mark. Please tell your students your first draft is a mess. What comes out of our hands in the first draft, or out of our fingers as we type, is mess and chaos. It's only through revision that it becomes a beautiful product. Okay. So they've got to write drafts. Yes, not one, not two, maybe sometimes 5. They've got to reflect on those drafts and revise them. Get feedback and revise. Get feedback and revise. Right. Last point is the journal writing. Journals are also very important because they help learners to consolidate their learning, gaps in their learning, what they need to develop, and how they can share this with others. How can we do this? Well, we can decide on a specific topic, maybe emails and letters, and you go and get them to write a brief 200 words. What is the email? How's it different to a letter? Compare and contrast as well. They could do a table there. What are the 3 main differences between letters and emails? And what are the 3 main similarities? You could do that as well, and let them share their writing. And then you take 2 or 3 key points, link between what they learned before and how you're going to explore in this lesson. Maybe you just looked at letters or informal letters in the previous lesson. Now you're going on to transactional writing and formal letters, perhaps. Yeah, just a little light-hearted cartoon here. 15 years ago, we got all these letters, and we went, sigh, letters, ding, yay, I got mail, my wonderful email that came through. Today I've got a letter from the medical aid. Oh my goodness, a letter, how excited we are. In my inbox, 220 unread emails. Actually, we're not so excited about all the emails coming through. Big differences. So journal writing types, you've got descriptive writing, where they write about things that have happened, what I did over the weekend, what I'm going to do in my holidays, what I think about those things. Introspective things about when I analyze things. I analyze what's happening with COVID, with sanitation, with contact learning. What are my thoughts and feelings about that? It helps me to make connections between concepts and ideas when I think about those things, how I'm exploring it. And help me to understand myself as a learner. Okay, what's my gap? Why didn't I understand this? Why do I feel like this? I can also write about real world problems in my journal: COVID-19, social distancing, GBV, pollution, corruption, lots of that at the moment. And then regular journal entries daily. What are my goals? What do I understand well? What things I find challenging? And to encourage them to keep their daily journal, to write every day in their journal as well. Right, I think it's my second last slide. ICT writing and portfolios are great, although I do have a bit of drawbacks. And the first is the cut and paste generation, where they just don't even worry about what they're putting into it. They just go and cut and paste. That's why we have Turnitin, so we can detect the plagiarism and similarities. Spelling blindness, they don't really check for their spelling errors. And then they get this format fetish, all right. They're more worried about what it looks like in the fancy types and the formatting and pictures, and they don't really worry about the content. So Those are some of the issues with ICT writing, but not to detract from it. It is vital and it's important. It's where we're going. So, second last slide. Here we go. How can I motivate my learners to write? Not I can't, I can. Remember that some of them are unaccustomed to writing, and you cannot expect them to be enthusiastic about something that they don't know about. So let them write about things that they find interesting. What do you like? Let's write about that. Give them opportunities to write about things they understand well. Maybe they're good at sport. Maybe they are the captain of the rugby team. Maybe they're really good on social media. Maybe they're an artist. Also, get them to write about challenging things so they can actually analyze and relate to it. They can go and research those topics as well. Different kinds of writing. Get them to write wikis and blogs and multimedia presentations, not just writing in a book, okay? Try different ways of writing. Model good writing practices. Give them examples of a good letter, a good email, a good mind map. Also look beyond the technical writing aspects. You made a spelling error. There wasn't an apostrophe there. There's no full stop here. Look for things like, gee, I like that idea, but you must just think about that sentence. It goes for 56 words. No one can really understand it. Let's break it up into a few sentences. Okay. Right. Yeah, they don't always have to write long pieces. Students seem to think the more they write, the better it is. Often it's the worse worse it is. So sometimes they need to write short pieces. Writing quality is not length. It's about how good it is. Give them encouraging feedback. Say, oh, wow, I can see it's coming on. There's potential. I really like the way you describe it. That's a good word. Encourage them to revisit their writing so they can see how it is developing. Let them write for an audience other than the teacher, for their friends, their mothers, their fathers, for a boss, to the headmaster, so they can actually align their writing with that person. And then lead by example. Encourage them to write. You write. Get them to write and show that you are passionate about writing as well. So you need to say sometimes to them, good job, well done. My last slide. I love to write. Yes, that you should all love to write. You encourage your students to gain a love of writing, to gain a love of English as well in their writing, and to enjoy expressing themselves. I love writing. I love the swirl and swing of words as they tangle with human emotions. So get them to use their writing and then you to be that audience to encourage them all the time. So that's it for tonight. On a canned recording next week, looking at the stages of writing, the process approach, which also is part of your assignment 2. Get back to me if you need any help with assignment 2, if you're not sure about anything, and just stay safe and warm and keep well. So I'll see you soon, either through email or through this medium form of the laptop here in front of me and camera. So good night for now.
Marcel,
thank you, Debbie.
Marcel,
yes.
Before you run away, I don't know if you saw the question in the chat.
No, I haven't.
From Megan. Okay, so Megan says, who is our intended audience for this workshop presentation? Are we to imagine, okay, so teachers. Are we to imagine we are presenting to HL teachers and providing recommendations, or are we presenting to SP learners?
No, it's to teachers. You do a workshop for teachers on using a process approach, differentiating it from the product approach. So is not, learners might come into your story. It's, you're going to talk about the benefits and the challenges of the process approach. And obviously your recommendation would be to use a process approach because it's the approach that's recommended by CAPS as well. But I want you to imagine yourself going to present a whole lot of SP teachers or FET teachers. I think if you were teaching if you're doing FET as well, you will obviously be looking at different kinds of writing which are longer, how you can structure it using the process approach. Whereas for, I think Megan's grade, she is SP, so it may be more for the grade 8s and grade 9s, how you can encourage a process approach for these students. I'm not sure if I've got all the questions there. Debbie?
I think so. From
I'm just trying to look at the
it's
chat.
who's the audience, it's the teachers, and then I think you were quite clear in explaining how to do that.
Yeah. Megan, if you're still there, just give me a mail if you're still not too sure about how I've explained this. But thank you for your questions always, Megan. It's nice to know I've got someone listening besides Debbie or Simon.
We're
Take care.
always
Thank you.
listening.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcel.
Thank you, Debbie. Have a lovely evening. You're doing the night shift tonight.
I am, yes. I think I got promoted. I'm not sure.
Oh, go girl.
It's very lovely to have the mornings off.
Right.
So
I'm sure
it all works
is.
out. It all works out.
Win-win. Thanks,
Have
Debbie. Take care. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.